Tonight, Melbourne's fast track to freedom, our first vaccine target in sight. Millions of new Pfizer doses touch down on Aussie soil, but there's a surge in Tier 1 exposure alerts. A 7-year-old girl stranded in Victoria, desperate to get home to Queensland as border barriers play host to Father's Day reunions. Test events on the way for the double vaxxed, how crowds could attend a COVID-safe Cox Plate. Also, a father stabbed to death at a caravan park in Melbourne's southeast. Details live. More Aussie gold ahead of the Paralympics closing ceremony. We're live to Tokyo. And Marcus Bontempelli facing a September injury battle after a finals thriller.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor.
Good evening. Victorians could be enjoying more freedom sooner than forecast as the state today passed one vaccination milestone and put us on a fast track to reaching our 70% first dose target. As millions of doses of Pfizer touch down in Australia tonight, families have found their own special ways to celebrate a second Father's Day in lockdown.
As Victoria marked 183 new COVID cases, Victorians marked Father's Day at one of the few available outlets, the park.
It's been tough. I think, the sort of monotony of lockdown gets a bit tiresome. And, ordinarily we'd be out for breakfast and catching up with, her grandpa and stuff. And we couldn't do that this year.
Just going for my exercise. And I happened to run into my daughter at the same park.
This has definitely been a saviour for us, having the parks open so that we can just let them burn some energy and just, lower the yelling in the house.
Restrictions mean there was little separation between today and any other. For families separated by borders, today meant gathering along state lines to connect, like those in far north New South Wales and Queensland. But there is hope of a brighter future here as a plane load of Pfizer jabs and over 1 million doses for Victoria touch down from the UK. The state hit 60% of Victorians getting their first dose of the vaccine.
That's a fantastic milestone, and I think we're going to get to the 70% first dose a little quicker than we had thought.
That's currently on track to happen 4 days earlier than expected.
I can see a situation as we get certainly 70 and then definitely 80. We would have some outdoor drinking and dining. We would have, all sorts of different activity that you wouldn't even think of now. The bias will be towards indoor, but for fully vaccinated people, there'll be more and more things that we can do.
Victorians are rushing to get vaccinated. There were 50,000 available AstraZeneca bookings at the start of the week. Today, just 11,000 remained. But despite Victorians rolling up their sleeves, the virus is still seeding. More than half of today's new cases are in the city's north. 53 in Hume, 17 in Moreland. Young people are also overrepresented in the city's hospitals. 91% of those hospitalised with COVID are under the age of 50.
And just confirms that this really is a pandemic now of the unvaccinated.
We need better ways to do this. I mean, why aren't we using technology? Why aren't we telling people, to come and get a jab now? Let's turn it on its head and let's being able to be a bit more service delivered for the public rather than we having to scramble to try and find a vaccine.
Anger too over Victorians repeatedly breaking the rules while the rest of us stay at home in lockdown. Premier Daniel Andrews wants popular businesswoman Nadia Bartel fined more than $5,000 for gathering at a private home in breach of the Cho directions.
This video, no different to the engagement party, is out there in the public domain, and it would be my anticipation that every single person at that house would be getting a $5,500 fine. People just making a judgment that the rules don't apply to them, that it's for somebody else to follow the rules. That's what makes people angry, I think.
And a vaccine blitz for VCE students gets underway this week. Jodie Lee joins us live. And Jodie, families are being told not to stress as there are enough doses for everyone to book in.
Well, Mike, the VCE vaccination hotline will begin taking bookings from tomorrow. Year 12 students can call from 8 a.m. to book in their very first Pfizer jab. The state government is expecting a flood of calls, so the advice if you can't get through initially is to remain patient and persistent. The government insisting there are enough jabs to accommodate every student. Those in Year 11 sitting Units 3 and 4 exams can call the hotline from Wednesday. Students will have received information on the vaccine rollout and on the hotline hotline through their schools. Mike?
Jodie, thank you. As we go to air tonight, there's been another surge in Tier 1 exposure alerts. Cam Bowe joins us from Greenvale. And Cam, there's been another COVID scare at a construction site.
Mike, a case attended the construction site here at the Greenvale Secondary College over 4 days last week, from Tuesday to Friday. So it's now among more than 1,000 exposure sites across the state. That number has jumped up significantly late today. Now, it comes as workplaces are put on notice, with more construction sites caught up in the outbreak. The focus is on workplaces as a weakness in the bid to counter COVID. A cluster which has emerged from the Panorama construction site at Box Hill has grown to 65 cases.
The maths of this, again, is undeniable. Half a dozen of those people are going to finish up in hospital, and quite unwell.
COVID safety breaches are a factor on construction sites. Inspections have been carried out at more than 600 locations over the past 4 weeks. 54 sites were not complying.
Where mask wearing wasn't as strong as it needed to be, site registers were not as strong as they needed to be, cleaning arrangements were not as strong as they needed to be.
The Health Department is continuing to investigate the outbreak at the Acquire call centre, which had been working on contact tracing. 25 staff and close contacts have tested positive.
If the government can't run their own systems, then how can we expect any other Victorian to run things properly?
Shoppers lined up to get back into Costco's Epping store after it had been declared a Tier 1 exposure site. It's one of more than 168 listings for supermarkets among the exposure sites. 2 early learning centres in Melbourne's west have also been listed as Tier 1 sites. The exposure periods for the Back to Basics Early Learning Centre at Hoppers Crossing and the Wyndham Vale Montessori Centre were on the 30th of August. Cameron Bowe, 7 News.
A family is making a desperate plea for a young girl to return home to Queensland. The 7-year-old came to Melbourne to visit her grandmother on the day the snap lockdown was announced and has been stranded for weeks.
Madison Langley's trip from her home in Cairns to visit her nan in Victoria was supposed to last a week, but it's been a month because our 6th lockdown happened just as she arrived.
I was at the airport picking her up when they actually just shut us down, and we thought, well, maybe 3 days, maybe 5 days, and then all of a sudden she's still here and she's got to the stage where she needs to go home.
The 7-year-old is stranded because the Queensland government won't let her return to her mum and older brother.
I miss hugging them so much.
It's hurtful, it's frustrating, it's depressing.
Her grandmother, Tracy Martin from Blind Bite, has been trying to get an exemption for Madison for 15 days. She says she's been refused the options of home or hotel quarantine.
We were both in tears on Friday morning because she had a rough night. 1 o'clock in the morning, we're still awake. I miss my mummy, I miss my daddy, I miss my big brother.
I want to go home and hug my family. A lot of times I've been really sad because I really miss them.
The stalemate made worse by Queensland letting NRL players in.
Money talks, obviously.
If there's any children, we are going to prioritise those to get them home.
Tracy says Queensland Health have told her to expect an update tomorrow. She says if it's good news, she'll try to have Madison on a plane within hours to get her home and back into the arms of her mum.
If people make the right decision, I would say thank you, but if people don't make the right decision, I won't say thank you because they're not helping anyone.
Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
Next month's Cox Plate is vying to be among a number of test events allowing fully vaccinated racegoers to attend Moonee Valley. And with restrictions set to ease in regional Victoria, a vaccine passport scheme is set to be trialled as soon as next week.
With vaccinations on track, the odds are in favour of crowds returning for next month's Cox Plate, but no jabs, no entry.
There's a carrot there that will show that life is getting back to normal. You might find some positive behaviour coming through from the population.
Under the proposal, capacity will be capped at 10%. No general admission, only members, owners and sponsors. QR codes and proof of vaccination mandatory. Rapid testing and a negative COVID test may also be required for the October 23 event.
It gives people a target, and in that 48 days, people that aren't yet vaccinated can get double dose vaccinated.
While the Cox Plate could be the first test of an event for the fully vaccinated, the Premier has indicated the vaccine passport scheme could be trialled in regional Victoria as soon as next week.
We'd be looking forward to seeing as many people back here as possible. Hopefully the majority of them are vaccinated, and I don't think it's up to us as business owners to police that.
Policing a problem for city businesses too. This Fitzroy cafe owner had his service iPad smashed for refusing to serve an unmasked customer.
And this is the thing, we have to police it. There's nobody else to help us.
Except the majority of customers who do the right thing.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
Tracy Macbeth, 7 News.
A 9-day-old baby has been diagnosed with COVID in Sydney. Little Hudson caught the virus off his mum.
Say hello. The panic that just washed over me, like being a first-time parent as well, I can't even describe it.
3 further people have died in New South Wales. The state recorded 1,485 new COVID cases. Meanwhile, authorities in Queensland are scrambling to find people who attended a Gold Coast nail salon. It's an exposure site linked to an infected truckie and 4-year-old girl, but only one person had checked in. A disgruntled hotel quarantine guest has been sent to jail after trashing his room in Richmond. Jesse Thomas was already in trouble with the law when he caused thousands of dollars worth of damage to the Element Hotel.
After 14 days in hotel quarantine, this is how Jesse Thomas left his room. The unwilling guest flying into a rage when told he had 12 more hours to go. The 19-year-old initially dodged hotel quarantine, sneaking into Victoria from New South Wales. But police tracked him down in Stawell before driving him to the Element Hotel in Richmond. Today, a court heard Thomas believed he'd be getting out at midday, not midnight. Former Big Brother star Daniel Hayes was also completing his hotel quarantine on the same floor.
People go crazy in here, you know why? It's not normal to lock people in a place.
Thomas caused up to $10,000 worth of damage to his room before grabbing his bag and trying to escape. But the magistrate said there was other accommodation he also wouldn't like and sent Thomas to jail. The teen will spend 3 months behind bars for the rampage and other unrelated crimes. Estelle Grapink, 7 News.
A father has been killed in a stabbing attack at a Dandenong South caravan park. Paul Dowsley has the story, and Paul, it's believed a brawl broke out late last night.
About 10 p.m, Mike, and this was bloody and brutal. The victim reportedly stabbed 11 times. He had only just started living at the Shorelands Caravan Park in the past few days. Then last night, an argument escalated with another man, allegedly a neighbour. 2 others were involved as well. Both of them were injured. Nothing serious, but they needed hospital treatment. They were the suspect's 32-year-old girlfriend and the victim's 21-year-old son, who's believed to have been a witness as his dad was repeatedly stabbed, then died in the caravan park. The 25-year-old suspect suffered non-life-threatening injuries and is now under police guard in hospital. The homicide squad is investigating, but so far, Mike, no charges have been laid.
Paul Dowsley, thank you. After months in the global spotlight, Tokyo will step off the world stage in the coming hours as the Paralympics draw to a close. On the final day, Australian Maddie Di Rosario powered through the gruelling marathon to win her 2nd gold of the Games.
Madison, it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's probably the greatest thing I've done in my life, so I'll take that.
In the T12 marathon, it was silver for visually impaired Victorian Jared Clifford, while it was a painful finish for Australian Michael Roger, who pushed through an existing bone stress injury, came in 6th. And Blake Johnson is in Tokyo. Blake, a stunning last day, setting the stage for tonight's closing ceremony.
Yes, Mike, some 3,000 athletes will be involved in the closing ceremony tonight, a huge chunk of the almost 4,500 who participated in Tokyo. But from the Aussies, again, a minimal addition. They'll have Ellie Cole, who is our flag bearer tonight, our most decorated Paralympian, and chef de mission Kate McLaughlin. The pair was given a little bit of a guard of honour departing the athletes' village this afternoon. The rest of the athletes staying there to watch on the big screen. That happened a short time ago. And speaking of a short time ago, the final dress rehearsals have just just wrapped up here at the stadium, which is a bit of a last-minute thing really, but the stadium has been in use for the athletics, which didn't wrap up until today. We can expect a uniquely Japanese event tonight, colour themes of warmth and calmness, performers with disabilities and without, and the iconic 2.7-tonne hydrogen-burning cauldron is good to go for one last time. So the final episode or final part of the Tokyo 2020 experience is at 8:30 tonight on 7mate and 7plus. Mike?
Well done to all. Thanks, Blake. We're down to the final four, fighting it out for this year's AFL Premiership. The Western Bulldogs advancing to the preliminary final after an epic one-point thriller over the Lions. But all eyes are on their captain, Marcus Bontempelli, who's injured his knee.
The team of the mighty West has landed in the West, touching down in Perth late this afternoon. Their premiership hopes alive after the closest semi-final this century.
A phenomenal final at the Gabba.
Sometimes this game just is really cruel and sometimes it's beautiful.
Bailey Smith's match-winning 3 goals, confirming his status as one of football's budding cult heroes.
Bailey Smith, has he got the Dogs in a brilliant final? He may well have.
Smith's celebrations inspired by American basketball.
It's called ice in the veins, D'Angelo Russell, little celebration, but I don't know, it just happened off instinct.
The Dog star promoting vaccination to his 249,000 followers. Marcus Bontempelli thinks his knee is okay. The captain's preliminary finals fate, though, hinging on a scan.
Yeah, should be all right. Initial tests and whatnot are pretty good.
COVID conscious, the AFL sent the Dogs to Adelaide via Perth, which is where they'll spend the week. It means if the Bulldogs make the grand final, they will travel Melbourne, Launceston, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide, Perth, almost 10,000 kilometres.
For them to hold their nerve and continue on with that resilience state of mind is really admirable.
The Cats trained ahead of their preliminary final against Melbourne on Friday night. Patrick Dangerfield's kids passing on a Father's Day message.
Happy Father's Day, Dad!
Oh, thank you, buddy.
Tom Brown, 7 News.
And Jackie Felgate is here. Jack, there could be trouble for the D's in the West.
Hello, Mike. Yes, an injury to one of their mainstays might cause a few headaches this week. The team had a training run today as they prepare for Friday night's prelim. We'll have the latest. Also, Ash Barty crashes out in the 3rd round of the US Open. And party time in America as college football crowds go wild. Those pictures are just unbelievable, aren't they? I'll have plenty of footy finals news to digest. I'll see you soon.
Jealous of that. Thanks, Jack. See you soon. A surfer has died after being bitten by a shark. Up next, a community in mourning after tragedy on the water. The revolutionary device helping treat Melbourne's tiniest patients. Also, the desperate search for a missing boy, why his parents fear he may have been abducted. Taking precision flying to a whole new level. And later, new advice on how to get the best deal for your high-speed internet. A surfer has died after being mauled by a great white in waters off Coffs Harbour on the New South Wales north coast. Good Samaritans dragged the man, aged in his 30s, to shore, but he couldn't be saved.
Ran down to see what was happening, saw a man without an arm, lots of blood.
The beach will remain closed until authorities are certain the shark has moved on. A world-first medical device made here in Melbourne is helping vulnerable babies receive the safest care. The revolutionary technology has already helped a boy leave the Royal Women's NICU, and its creators have big plans for the future.
8-month-old Nash is healthy and thriving, but the idea bub had a shaky start to life. Born at just 28 weeks.
Looking back at those photos now, realising how small he was, it's very, very confronting at times, but it also makes us very grateful to see the way he is now.
Nash spent 10 weeks at the Royal Women's Hospital NICU ward, his family agreeing to trial a Melbourne-made device called the NeoNav as part of his care.
It meant that any procedures he was going to have were going to be a lot less invasive. So we knew that this way was going to be a little less traumatic for him and I suppose for us.
The NeoNav helps a tiny catheter deliver life-saving medicine with pinpoint accuracy. Usually around half of catheters are misplaced or move position after a procedure.
Even really experienced healthcare professionals like doctors and nurses still need multiple attempts sometimes to place these central lines. And so we're just trying to make their job easier and make it less stressful for patients and families as well.
The startup has been given a $50,000 grant, so the world-first device can help more premature babies like Nash.
They're absolutely tiny and, some of the most vulnerable patients in our healthcare system. So we're really hoping to be able to focus all of our efforts on developing the products that the neonatal doctors and nurses really need to look after these patients.
Estelle Griepink, 7 News.
Taliban special forces have cracked down on a women's rights protest as the militant group prepares to name a government. The Taliban had promised a more inclusive administration representing Afghanistan's complex ethnic makeup, with women to play a key part. But the reality in the nation's capital tells a different story. Tear gas and batons were used to disperse the peaceful demonstration today, which saw hundreds march through the city calling for equality. The search for a missing 3-year-old boy is getting more desperate tonight. Detectives have now established a formal strike team as they sift through a trove of new clues.
They've barely slept. They're visibly drained.
How do you think we're doing? We're not doing too well. Kid just doesn't pick up and disappear.
Every family member has now been interviewed separately by police. They've adamantly been telling detectives that they think AJ was snatched. Police haven't ruled that out.
It's very early in our inquiries and we have nothing further to provide in that regard.
The air and ground search hasn't stopped, searching for any sign of the little boy or any sign of foul play.
We're praying. I just want to have him sit on my lap or hold my hand or, even just look at him. Look at him.
This property up the road has been taped off. This video, obtained by 7 News, circulated by family and friends, allegedly shows its interior.
He just seems like a pedophile.
Drugs, kids' toys, various credit cards, dolls hanging from string. But its veracity, the legitimacy of what's seen in this video is under scrutiny. Specifically, who shot it and when.
Yeah, that's some kinky bro.
I can't comment.
It's also understood police are forensically examining quad bikes which were seized from the family property, investigating a line of inquiry whether they played a part in AJ's disappearance.
The worst thing that could possibly happen in this situation are rumours. No one knows what it feels like until you live in this nightmare.
Tom Hartley, 7 News.
Now, this is what you call precision flying. A stunt pilot has become the first in the world to zoom a plane through a tunnel. Not one, in fact, but two, at an average of 245 kilometres an hour. And if that wasn't enough, he celebrated with a 360-degree loop. Crazy. Melina Saris joins us now for a look at the weather. And Mel, most of the showers cleared by late morning.
They did, Mike. We have seen quite a bit of rain over the past couple of days. Overnight, their heaviest falls were in Watsonia with 16 millimetres and Mount Dandenong with 15. The city recorded 10. During the day, we had a few spots of drizzle passing through, but they delivered less than a millimetre to the gauge. Thankfully, there were some long dry breaks throughout the day. The recent rain has led to a number of flood warnings. I'll have all of those details right after sport, Mike.
OK, thanks, Mel. There's new confusion tonight over the national plan out of the pandemic. Up next, what federal officials are saying about seeing your family this Christmas. Also, protesters fight back against vaccine passports on the streets of Paris. Plus, how your online banking details could help you find a better deal on your home loan. And Father's Day at home. Find out why it's extra special for this new dad. More Victorians will soon be getting their COVID jabs at work. Major supermarkets are already on board with more workplaces to come.
We're working with Coles, Aldi, Woolworths, Metcash. I think it may pick up pace and be a much bigger part of the vaccination rollout, a bigger thing if you like, I think soon.
The Premier expects to announce more workplace partnerships as the rollout ramps up. State premiers have slammed a federal minister's suggestion that the national plan for reopening could change. The Doherty Institute has updated its modelling to reflect higher case numbers as Tasmania and WA look to keep borders closed until 90% of the population is vaccinated.
It's the country's plan to freedom, the Doherty modelling recommending a vaccination rate of 70 to 80% to end harsh COVID restrictions. But today, a senior cabinet minister caused some confusion.
I'd need to check the context in which he meant that.
Well, he's not at National Cabinet.
No. He is Federal Employment Minister Stuart Robert, who suggested the thresholds for reopening could be changed at any time if case numbers continue to rise.
So that 80% might shift if you're worried about the hospitals.
Oh goodness, anything could change next week.
We should have a framework and stick to it, but it might shift and we might need to change it.
Well, of course plans change, David. Come on, nothing's set in stone.
Stuart Robert has absolutely torpedoed Scott Morrison's dishonest campaign on the national plan.
But Minister Roberts' comments were quickly shut down by the leaders who actually set the targets.
What we do know is what National Cabinet decided.
We helped write the national plan. So anyone out there suggesting that we're not sold on it is just foolish.
Updated modelling based on high case numbers will be released this week, but the vaccination thresholds do not change as the Prime Minister doubles down on his commitment to reopen this year, telling News Corp that everyone can make plans for a family Christmas. For loved ones that live interstate,
once we hit 80% double dose, by that stage, definitely all internal borders in Australia should not exist.
But not every Premier agrees.
We reserve the right to keep borders in place to protect our citizens.
Some are discussing keeping borders closed until they reach closer to 90%.
I'm not going to allow plane loads of people with COVID to simply fly into the state.
Jennifer Beshwati, 7 News.
Police have stormed a shopping centre in Paris to break up a COVID protest. Thousands attended the demonstration against the country's health pass, which allows vaccinated people to enter restaurants and other venues. Multiple people were arrested. Turkish President Erdogan has been upstaged by an impatient boy who jumped the gun on a ribbon-cutting ceremony. He tried to hide it and copped a rap on the head by the president when he realised what had happened. They held it together long enough for the official cutting to open a local tunnel. There's a new way to take a lot of the stress out of securing a home loan. It's being likened to having a broker in your back pocket. And the best news, it's free.
At first, nurse Penny McCarthy found the process of buying and financing her new home overwhelming.
I was the most anxious, nervous person, and I'm not great with spreadsheets and I don't understand finance.
So Penny turned to Finspo, a free app which uses data from your various bank accounts, savings and loan products to find the best banking deals.
We found a way to make it not only easier to get the home loan that's right for you, but also much easier to pay it off faster.
As a former banker, CEO Angus Gilfillan knows where to look for savings.
Get better rates on your products, to avoid fees you might have paid, or to manage the balances of your accounts so that you pay less interest.
To get the personalised recommendations, you need to share your banking information.
They understand that they're dealing with very sensitive information, so they have processes in place to protect that.
The average owner-occupier pays a mortgage rate of 2.88%. Refinancing to 1.89% on a $400,000 loan would save $204 a month, or more than $11,000 over a 3-year fixed term.
It always pays to do your own research as well. They're kind of like having a broker working for you constantly, monitoring the market 24 hours a day.
When it's made easy for you, it's something you do take an interest in.
Gemma Acton, 7 News.
All across Melbourne, Father's Day has been spent in lockdown, but it hasn't stopped children from making Dad feel special. And for one new dad, the day is particularly special.
This is where dads have spent much of the past 18 months at home.
Cheers, have a cup of tea.
And this Father's Day is no different.
It's day 5 by the river.
But despite lockdown, they've found special ways to celebrate.
Tiggles?
Especially for new dads on their first Father's Day. Among those marking the occasion for the first time, Melbourne paramedic John Summers, who welcomed baby Adeline in June.
It was never going to happen for me, and now I feel overjoyed.
He and his partner Laura Cooney finally had success after 15 rounds of IVF.
That moment when my little girl came out was it took my breath away.
Another key to Dad's heart, food.
It's nice to do something special, even though it's you've got to get it takeaway. It's nice to just sit at home or sit at the park and get some nice food.
Lobster Bar Pinchy's opened a pop-up restaurant at this Melbourne wine bar.
Usually Father's Day is a very busy day for most restaurants, so we just thought outside the box like most businesses are.
We're serving over 200 people today, so it's going to be a really, really awesome day.
Spending quality time together and creating new family traditions. Melina Saris, 7 News.
Happy Father's Day to all the dads. CityLink is shutting down the Burnley and Domain tunnels, taking advantage of Melbourne's curfew for a high-tech upgrade. The details are next. Also, ahead, new advice on how to get the best deal for your high-speed internet. A world-famous musical returns with an Australian flavour. Why Buckingham Palace is furious over leaked details of what happens when the Queen dies. The Burnley Tunnel will shut down for 4 nights while CCTV cameras are upgraded. 200 cameras are being upgraded along CityLink. It will only impact essential workers with the tunnel closed during curfew from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Drivers should detour via the Power Street exit from the Westgate Freeway. There has been a shocking discovery in Brisbane's Botanic Gardens, a body found in a pond just after midday. Police divers were called in to bring the man's body out of the water. Detectives are investigating if it had been there for several days. The man has not yet been officially identified. Demand for affordable and reliable internet has spiked during the pandemic, almost tripling over the past year. Now we're being urged to reconsider how much we should be paying each month and how to avoid building up an expensive bill.
Working from home has become second nature for Ali Amin. The university lecturer relies on the internet for remote teaching, but it doesn't always go to plan.
Whenever I did have an issue in the past, I'd resort to hotspotting off my phone. It's frustrating.
Switching to a local provider meant Ali was able to slash costs on his plan.
We're a young couple, and so we look at our bills every month.
And to avoid paying too much, experts say the key is to look out for bundled services hiking up the bill each month.
Just after a standalone plan, then you shouldn't be paying more than $70 per month.
For a standard NBN 50 plan with unlimited data, local providers are offering 6-month deals, with Flip starting at $54 per month, followed by a Tangerine plan, then a Superloop plan at around $60 for the first 6 months. But with extras added on, TPG offers around $70 per month, Optus is $79 and Telstra comes in at $90 per month.
And if you do want to make the switch to a different provider but you're in a locked-in contract, the advice is to check the fine print for early exit and termination fees.
If you think that the fee that they're asking you for leaving a contract early is too high, then you should really challenge that.
Angelique Opie, 7 News.
Television's Logie Awards have been cancelled for a second year in a row. The show was set for November 28 on the Gold Coast, but is now officially being called off. Border restrictions and lockdowns have made it impossible for the show to go on. When the Moulin Rouge musical reopens in Paris later this week, it will have an Australian flavour. A record number of Aussie girls and guys will be performing on stage. They've survived the European lockdowns and are now ready to put on a show.
Beneath that famous red windmill, the original cabaret show is back. The accent, not so French.
I'm so excited. I'm also a bit nervous. It was a bit of a culture shock when I first got here. But I've been dreaming of being here since I was a little girl.
Backstage, you'll find more Aussies than ever before.
This costume is all rhinestone and sequins, all handmade, and it's just a dream to wear.
There's 3 blokes too.
When there's Australians in the audience and they find out and they realise, hey, some of them come from down the road where I'm from, and so that's kind of nice as well.
After 17 months off the stage, its longest intermission in more than a century, the Moulin Rouge is shrugging off the pandemic.
It's been really weird to not be performing every day and trying to find something to do.
The cast was sent home, but the Aussies stayed on in France, tried to keep fit in their tiny Paris flats. Home workouts have now been replaced by months of intense training and rehearsals. When the show resumes, 21 performers, 1/3 of the show will be Australian, the world's most famous cabaret with more than a touch of Down Under.
The Aussie girls are fit, have great figures, great smiles, good natural personalities. They look beautiful, and you put that with good dance training, and there you have it.
You have to give it your all every night, and that's something I think the Aussie spirit kind of brings to the table.
In Paris, Hugh Whitfeld, 7 News.
Buckingham Palace is furious about a leak of official plans detailing how the Queen's death would be managed. Codenamed Operation London Bridge. It sets out the timeline of what steps would be taken, including Boris Johnson being told London Bridge is down. While the plans are believed to be outdated, the Palace has launched an official investigation. Sport is next with Jackie Felgate and Jack. The Bulldogs are sweating on their skipper.
Hello again, Mike. Yes, they have booked their slot in a prelim, but Marcus Bontempelli is racing the clock. We'll get the very latest next as the Dogs are on the move once again, touching down in Perth. Exclusive details of a fresh injury concern for the Demons ahead of their Friday night blockbuster against the Cats. Aussie Ash Barty knocked out in a stunning upset at the US Open. And college football madness, 2 years in the making. Welcome back. The Bulldogs' hectic travel schedule isn't doing injured captain Marcus Bontempelli any favours, according to a leading sports doctor. The team is now touched down in Perth, sweating on the extent of their skipper's knee concern.
A big journey west after an epic win. Now the race is on for Bont to recover for next weekend.
Flying on a plane doesn't help, to be honest, because we know when you fly, you can get a difference in the way the body distributes fluid and swelling of ankles and swelling of core.
The Dogs skipper has a few concerns, an awkward landing on his knee and then a boot to the calf.
I was a bit ginger initially, so rather than limp around out there, probably the right thing was just an interchange.
Initial tests didn't suggest any serious injury, but he's not in the clear yet.
We'll probably get a scan once we get to Perth and see if there's any damage in there.
The team's taxing travel schedule doesn't help.
Over the years, we've known that you can almost add a day or two to the recovery of those injuries simply because of the effect of the cabin pressure and swelling that occurs at altitude.
The Bulldogs have the week in Perth before flying to Adelaide to face Port on Saturday night. Another blow, Cody Waitman unlikely after a head knock. The league's concussion rules means he'll be sidelined for 12 days, but the Dogs will consult with AFL doctors tomorrow before ruling him out.
We have a different player replace Cody, who brings a different skill set, but there are some lads there waiting in the wings who will come in and be an important part of our makeup.
Bevo and his team fought through to claim the 2016 flag, and he's confident this year's squad has the same resilience. The big question is whether the MVP can pull up in time.
I've always said the medical rules are different in September than they are during the home and away seasons.
Laura Spurway, 7 News.
So the Bulldogs' backup plan is in full swing for the prelim final. Tom Brown is live with the very latest. Hello, Tom. The reinforcements are on their way to Perth.
Jack, I just spoke to the Bulldogs. Marcus Bontempelli critically will have a scan in Perth tonight, but Waitman's absence with concussion does pave the way for at least one change to the Bulldogs. Now, Jamari Ugle-Hagan flew out of Tasmania today, as you can see, to join the team with another group over in Perth. But Jason Johannesson shapes as the most likely replacement for Waitman. It's like for like. He was a super sub last night, kicking 1-1 at a critical time. Jack, moving to the Demons this afternoon, they trained in Perth. Our cameras did pick up this shot of Alex Neil-Bullen with his calf strap. Now, Melbourne tell me tonight it's only a corked calf, and he will be right for next weekend, but it does leave the door ajar open for a veteran return for Nathan Jones.
Important to have 4 days to switch off and play a bit of golf and just have a bit of a mental break. But now today, that feeling, that game-like week has just started. Yeah, now it's a prelim and a spot in a granny. I think the nerves and the excitement's just going to go up another level.
A week off for the Demons. And Jack, just finally, I expect Brad Scott will be announced as the AFL General Manager of Football as soon as this week. But we will finally get an answer on whether he wants to coach and, in particular, go for the Carlton job, Jackie.
OK, thank you very much, Tom. Well, number one, Ash Barty has suffered a shock third-round loss to American Shelby Rogers at the US Open. The Aussie was leading 5-2 in the third, serving for the match when it all went wrong. The American, world number 43, fighting back in incredible fashion to record an unlikely victory.
Man, I don't know, was that a miracle or something? I don't know what happened.
I just didn't quite have enough physically or mentally in the tank, but that's okay. Sometimes you don't mind losing to certain people, and I think Shelby, in a sense of her personality and her character, she's certainly one of those for me.
Buddy had won 14 of her last 15 matches against Rogers. Dutchman Max Verstappen clinched pole position for his home F1 Grand Prix in front of 70,000 delirious fans. Verstappen edged out championship leader Lewis Hamilton, while Dan Ricciardo qualified 10th. Both Williams drivers, George Williams and Nicholas Latifi, crashed heavily but escaped unhurt. Patrick Cantlay is on the cusp of an enormous payday. The America's prize, Aussie Cameron Smith, is tied for 13th, 14 shots back. And how's this for a Father's Day present? Aussie long jumper Nicholas Hum won a bronze medal at the Paralympics last night, just days after the birth of his daughter Holly. Our first ever Taekwondo Paralympian, 40-year-old Janine Watson, also won bronze, as did runner Dion Kenzie in the 1500 metres. So let's take a look at the medal tally now. China takes out top spot from Great Britain and the US. Australia finishes 8th with 21 gold, 29 silver and 30 bronze. Remarkable. And these pictures are just images of all 665 athletes who represented Australia at the Olympics and the Paralympics in Tokyo are being projected onto the Sydney Opera House sails. With COVID restrictions rendering parades impossible, our athletes are instead being celebrated with this virtual tribute. All weekend, we've seen pictures of college football crowds flocking back to stadiums across America. And this is just madness in Wisconsin as the Badgers got to jump around for the first time in 651 days. It's a great song too, one of the sport's crazy traditions right there for the almost 80,000 fans. I don't know what to make of all that. It's quite
lot,
triggering, isn't it?
I'll tell you what, I was jumping around in the living room at the game last night. Wasn't that
one
terrific?
Of the great finals, and I think it sets up a fairy tale finish, doesn't it, for the Western Bulldogs?
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Jack. Melina Saris is next with the forecast. And Mel, you've got some good news.
Mike, we are warming up. We'll be back in the 20s by the middle of the week. I'll have all of those details right after the break. We've had a cool and drizzly day, but the sunshine will make an appearance by the middle of the week, so we have that to look forward to. The city started the day on 8 degrees and we only made it to a top of 13. Outside now, it is sitting on 11 and we can expect a few showers later tonight. After some significant rainfall over the past couple of days, there are a number of flood warnings in place, including moderate flood warnings for the Latrobe River and the Murray River upstream of Lake Hume. The rain has now eased to showers across Gippsland. Scattered showers are likely to continue along our southern and coastal areas tonight. If we take a look at the satellite, a low pressure system in the Tasman Sea, which has been directing all of this wet weather our way, is moving eastwards as a ridge of high pressure builds over Victoria. A weak front will pass through Bass Strait early on Monday, while the ridge will strengthen over the state. A quick check of our capitals for tomorrow. Mostly sunny in Brisbane, partly cloudy, windy in Sydney, partly cloudy in Adelaide, and it is sunny over in Perth. But in Victoria tomorrow, our southern and mountain areas will see some isolated showers. They should ease off by the afternoon. The south will be partly cloudy, mostly sunny across the north. Winds will be moderate, southwesterly, fresh about the coast during the morning. Partly cloudy over the suburbs tomorrow. There is the slight chance of a shower just in the early morning. We could also see some fog over the northeastern suburbs early on. Temperatures will be a few degrees warmer than today, edging closer to the high teens in the western suburbs, mid-teens over here in the east. An early shower in the city tomorrow, but there won't be much in it. Then partly cloudy 9 overnight before a top of 17 degrees. A possible shower on Tuesday, 17 again. Wednesday is when we finally have some bright sunshine, 21 degrees. Thursday and Friday are partly cloudy, heading for a top of 22 on both days, but next weekend could be showery. A shower or two on Saturday, 21 degrees, and more showers on Sunday as well, with some cooler temperatures coming back as well, a top of 14 degrees. But an early shower in the city tomorrow before a partly cloudy top of 17 degrees, Mike.
OK, thanks, Mel. And that's 7 News for this Sunday night. We'll have updates throughout the evening. For now, from the 7 News team, have a great night.